And I say to you, ladies and gentlemen, we can wait no...
The Seneca Falls Convention set off a wave of women's rights meetings throughout the 1850s. Elizabeth Cady Stanton was torn between raising her children and raising a revolution. Unable to travel, she made her voice heard in articles, letters, and at local meetings. It was following one of these assemblies that she met a restless schoolteacher from Rochester, New York, Susan B. Anthony. They began a lifelong friendship. Stanton said when she first saw that stately young Quaker woman, she knew that together they would shake the very foundations of American society. Inspired by Stanton, Anthony dedicated her life to the cause, taking to the road to fight for women's rights.
My dear Mrs. Stanton, I do not want to give up my life of freedom to become a man's housekeeper. If a girl marries poverty, she becomes a drudge. If she marries wealth, she becomes a doll. And I want none of either. Yours, Susan B. Anthony.
Oh, Susan, Susan, I shall die of a human rights convulsion. How rebellious it makes me feel when I see my husband going about where and how he pleases. Come here, and I will do what I can to help you with your speech. If you will hold the baby and make the puddings. Ever yours, Elizabeth.
For years, Anthony trekked from town to town to deliver her message. She never knew if people would listen politely or pelt her with rotten tomatoes. Quietly, firmly, she called for equality for all people.
There is no true freedom for woman without possession of all her rights. Whether black, white, male or female, even the smallest human right denied is large.
Anthony always carried a tremendous sense of personal dignity with her, because she always had a sense of having the rights that she actually did not have. Her message was not complicated, and that is that women must have full rights of citizenship and full equality, most basically be fully treated as human beings.
The suffrage movement would be a magnet for a handful of extraordinarily independent women. A Boston abolitionist, Lucy Stone, joined the crusade. Stone had defied convention by keeping her own name when she married. Now a paid anti-slavery speaker, she split her time working for women's rights.
The woman who departs from society's rules must suffer. But I shall brave ridicule and persecution for the sake of the good that will result.
All right, I need to interrupt this program to give you this important background tidbit here. There were the Abolitionist movement was integral to the women's suffrage movement or the women's rights movement when it initiated, mainly due to this event in 1840, the World Anti-Slavery Convention, when Lucretia Mott, this person right here, and Elizabeth Cady Stanton right here met. They were very much involved in the abolitionist movement, trying to get rid of slavery. Their husbands were very much involved in it, and the abolitionist movement was an international movement and gained great excitement when this convention was formed. The problem for these two individuals here, Lucretia Mott and Elizabeth Cady Stanton, traveling across the pond, the Atlantic Ocean, very excited to be involved in this and envisioning the days when the scourge of slavery was finally wrested and over. When they arrived at the convention, they were told to wait out in the foyer, not to come in, because the menfolk would handle the situation. This was a profound realization to them. Not that they realized that they had been denied respect and rights and all that sort of stuff. They didn't learn here that they were an oppressed class, but it gained a new appreciation because they were with the most progressive men of their time, the most liberal men of their time, men devoted to ending slavery, which was a very radical thing to do during this time. And so they were with these men, and despite their liberal progressive leanings, they were still oppressive to women. And they realized at that moment that if they were ever to end slavery, that they had to figure out a way and devise strategy to procure rights for women, right? To manifest inalienable rights for all people, including women. So this was really the birth of the women's suffrage movement. And from 1840 to 1848, they devised, Stanton and Mott devised strategy, and that strategy was initiated with the Seneca Falls Convention. All right, back to the regularly broadcast program. Enjoy.
For 10 years, leaders of the women's movement and abolitionists all worked together. In 1861, when the issue of slavery erupted into civil war, these reformers saw the promise of independence, not only for Black Americans but for American women as well. The women would put aside their own demands and work for the Union cause. With the war behind them, Elizabeth Cady Stanton would raise the issue of the vote once again.
This is our opportunity to retrieve the errors of the past and mold a new democracy. If our rulers have the justice to give the black man suffrage, should not woman walk in by his side?
The chair recognizes the esteemed Senator.
Since the founding of the country, only the states had power to declare who could vote. Now the federal government would move to pass a constitutional amendment to enfranchise black men. Stanton and Anthony argued passionately for women to be included. But in 1869, the politicians wanted no part of the stormy issue of women's suffrage. It was, they said, the Negro's hour.
Elizabeth Cady Stanton and Susan B. Anthony said, "We will not put anyone's rights above our own. We have been told that we should wait, but there is no time to wait. Everyone needs their freedom and their rights now.
I will cut off this right arm of mine before I will ask for the ballot for the Negro and not for the woman."
Anthony and Stanton publicly denounced the constitutional amendment that would give black men the vote, but exclude women, holding their ground when Lucy Stone condemned them as fanatics, even racists. Defiantly, they founded their own organization, the National Woman Suffrage Association. Lucy Stone remained loyal to the former slaves, and with her abolitionist allies set up a rival association to continue the fight for the woman's vote. For the next 20 years, two competing groups would carry on the campaign.